Something really fascinating is happening in the US housing market. Remember those days of crazy bidding wars and people waiving inspections just to get a house? Well, it looks like those days are over. All of a sudden, a record number of buyers are getting cold feet and just walking away from deals. So let's dig in and figure out what's really going on here. All right, so first things first, let's talk about the what. We are seeing a historic spike in canceled home sales. And trust me, the numbers are absolutely staggering. This isn't just some minor blip on the radar, we're talking about a record-breaking trend. Just look at this number right here, 40,000. In December alone, around 40,000 home purchase agreements were just canceled across the entire US. That is a huge number of deals falling through in just 1 month, and it's a major signal that something's changing with how buyers are thinking. So what does that 40,000 number actually mean as a percentage? Well, it comes out to this, 16.3%. That means 16.3% of all homes that went under contract in December had the deal fall through. And to put that into perspective for you, that is the highest rate for any December on record, going back to at least 2017. That's a big deal. And this isn't some random one-off event. Just look at the year before. The cancellation rate was 14.9%. So that jump to 16.3 shows a really clear accelerating trend of buyers getting hesitant. Which of course leads to the big question. Why is this happening? So, yeah, what is driving this record-breaking number of cancellations? Well, the answer really comes down to a fundamental shift in the market's power dynamics. To put it as simply as possible, it's a buyer's market now. I mean, after years and years of sellers calling all the shots, the balance of power has officially tilted. And this quote from Chen Zhao, who's the head of economics research at Redfin, really just sums it up perfectly. With higher housing costs, but also more houses on the market, homebuyers are just, well, they're being more selective. They're not just grabbing whatever they can get anymore. They have more options, and that means they can afford to be a lot pickier. And here's how that new leverage is playing out in the real world. Buyers are actually using their contingencies again, like inspections, to walk away if a home isn't absolutely perfect. Or in some cases, they're just backing out because, hey, a better, maybe more affordable house just popped up on the market. They're just not afraid of losing out anymore. Okay, but here's the thing. This national trend isn't happening the same way everywhere, not even close. So now let's dive into the where, the specific cities where deals are falling apart left and right, and then we'll contrast that with the markets where things are holding strong. All right, check out these cancellation hotspots. In Atlanta, a staggering 22.5% of deals were canceled. Think about that. That's more than 1 in every 5 deals. And other cities like Jacksonville and San Antonio, they're not far behind, with rates hanging right around that 20% mark. And this chart really puts Atlanta's situation into perspective. I mean, the national average of 16.3% is already high, right? But Atlanta's rate is way, way higher. In fact, in that market, home sellers now outnumber buyers by over 80%. That gives buyers an incredible amount of power. But then, on the complete other side of the coin, you have these markets. These are mostly coastal hotspots. And here, deals are much, much more secure. Look at Nassau County, New York. The cancellation rate is a tiny 3.8%. San Francisco is also remarkably low. It is a completely different world over there. Okay, but this is where it gets really, really interesting. Let's take San Jose. On the surface, its 8.9% cancellation rate looks pretty stable, right? But if you dig a little deeper, that rate represents the single biggest increase in cancellations in the entire country. It just goes to show you that even in these more resilient markets, the ground is shifting, and it's shifting fast. So, after all that, what does this actually mean for you? If you're thinking about buying or selling a home right now, let's break it down into the key takeaways from this whole market shift. All right, for buyers, the message is loud and clear. You have more power, you've got more options, and there's way less pressure to just rush into a decision. But for sellers, it's pretty much the opposite. The competition is tougher, you've got to be flexible, and a deal is definitely not a guarantee until the ink is dry and it's officially closed. And here is the real kicker in all of this. All this caution from buyers, it's happening even as the average 30-year mortgage rate is hitting a 3-year low of 6.09%. So what does that tell us?
It tells us this trend isn't just about high interest rates. This is a fundamental reset of expectations and power in the housing market.
So that leaves us with this big, forward looking question. In this new reality where buyers are holding a lot more of the cards, are sellers going to have to completely change their strategy? Offer more concessions, be way more flexible, or get more competitive on price just to get a deal across the closing table? That is the big question shaping the market right now.